I have entitled this little talk, The Bridegroom from Heaven. I always thought Genesis 2:24 should read differently. The books of Moses clearly advocate a male-dominated culture. In my view, it should have been a woman will leave her father and mother, where it says a man will leave his father and mother, cling to his wife. And in fact, in the Middle East, that was the practice, that the woman was under the guardianship of her father until she got married. Then her husband became a guardian. And, the whole Western world was dominated by that kind of culture until recently. In South Africa, until 1984, a woman married in community of property was actually regarded as a minor in law. She couldn't sign contracts on her own without her husband's signature and so on. Her legal rights were virtually the same as that of an underage child. So, why does Genesis 2:24 read, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife," and so on and so on? Now, I've learned from Bible teachers that when you see "therefore" somewhere, then you got to go look at the sentence before it to see what it's there for. So let's go and look at the sentence before it, which is Genesis 2:23. That contains Adam's exclamation, where Adam says, "Bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." So how does bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh, what's that got to do with Adam now leaving father and mother? I mean, Adam only had a father, he didn't have a mother. But a man would leave his father and his mother. Now, in the books of the prophets, Israel is referred to as the wife of a maker. In other words, a maker is a husband. And Genesis 2:24 can then be interpreted as a prophetic utterance that came even before mankind sinned, before the fall, that the heavenly husband would leave his home to be joined to his wife and become flesh like she was. He would become a man. Now, to look a little bit further at this, I'm going to quote the most famous rabbi of all time. He used parables to explain the kingdom of heaven. And one of them, he said, it's like a man who discovered a treasure hidden in a field. He covered the treasure up, was so delighted with it that he sold all his possessions and he bought the field. And I'd like to interpret it the following way. The field is the earth. The earth was given to man. You can read that Genesis 1:28. Man was given dominion over the earth, told to rule over the earth. And in Psalm 8 we also read about it. We read that the animals, the plants, everything was put under the care of man. Actually, we haven't done a wonderful job of it, have we? But in fact, what mankind's been doing is fighting over which man will actually be in charge. That has never stopped. And so if the field is the earth, what about the treasure? Well, the treasure is the people that will ultimately end up to be the bride of the heavenly bridegroom. That'll be the elect, the chosen ones, the righteous people, whatever you want to call them. And of course, Israel was identified in the prophets to be this bride. And then, okay, now one more thing. What now if we read about this? She must become bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. So not that he becomes flesh like she, but bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh. No blood is mentioned here. Blood is not mentioned here. Now he had to shed his blood. When he did, he obtained a new flesh, new bone, a resurrected body. And then she, the bride, will ultimately receive that same kind of a body. When we see him, we shall be like him. Now, the above thoughts that I have here, they're not original. I have also found them where they were written by what I regard as the second most famous expounder of the law of Moses, who said that Genesis 2:24 contains a mystery. I've given you enough to actually go and research for yourself about some of these things and see what you think about it. I hope it'll encourage you that the elect of God are a treasure, and He's given up all His possessions to have this treasure. In fact, He's not only given up His heavenly possessions, but also His blood on earth is shed in order to buy this bride.